time, we will get started. Welcome once again to On Life, Leadership, Happiness, Courage, and Success. Let me get straight into it with a brief introduction of myself, and then we will get started. By the way, I can see you all on chat. So whenever at any point in time you have a comment or a question, feel free to type it on the chat. I will also be asking you to reflect several times and get you to answer some questions about it. So a little bit about me. Well, I spent many years in the corporate world around the world in various roles. Somewhere sort of in the mid to late 40s, I decided that that was enough. And from then onwards, I became a struggling author. Why do I say struggling author? Because I like to write books, but nobody likes to read books these days, and yet books need to be written. And today I will be telling you a few stories from a bit from these books and from countless articles and things that have appeared in various media over the years. And what do I do now? I spend my time between Singapore and the US, between Stewardship Asia Center, looking at environmental and social sustainability, the idea of doing well in life and in business by doing good, and in the United States with a company called LEC. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to start by giving you a couple of questions to level set. So 2 questions are going to appear one by one on your screen in a second. I'd like you to please take out your camera and scan it and answer this first question, please. All right, so go ahead and scan the QR code and answer this question. Do you agree or disagree? The best leaders are selfless servant leaders who put others' interests ahead of their own. They are ready to make personal sacrifices for greater good. Agree or disagree? Go ahead, please, and scan that QR code, and on your phone, give us a agree or disagree answer. I'm going to give it a little bit more time for a few more of you to answer. Very good. Keep going. Let's hear it from a few more of you. And then I'll pop the next question. Okay, and by the way, please remember your answer, because later on I'm going to come back to these 2 questions. Whether you answered agree or disagree, please remember your answer. It looks like a majority of you agree that the best leaders are those who serve us. They act as servant leaders. They put their own interest behind greater good. Wonderful. That's what we want in our leaders. That's what most of you agree upon. A small number of people disagree, but a large majority of you agrees. Again, keep your answer in mind. I will come back to it later. Here's the next question. This is the reverse. The best employees put the organization's interest ahead of their own. They succeed by working collaboratively to achieve the organization's mission, even if it sometimes means sacrificing personal ambition. So let's see. So from our leaders, we want them to be servant leaders, but what about us? Do we also want to do the same thing? Let's hear it. So go ahead and please be honest. I don't know who's saying what, so I won't hold it against you. So whatever your real opinion is, go ahead. Okay, so far, let's see a few more. Go ahead and scan that QR code and answer that question. Give me your opinion, and we will go from there. Let's have a few more answers before I move on. So far, it's running neck to neck with the first question. Okay, a slightly larger percentage of disagree on this one. Okay, give it another 30 seconds. Very interesting. When it comes to our bosses, we want them to be selfless servant leaders, but when it comes to ourselves, no, 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 that's not what you got to do all the time. A much larger number of you disagree with this one. Okay, very good. We will come back to these questions. Remember your answers as you gave them to me. So with that, let's get into it. What are we going to talk about today? In the next 55 minutes or so, here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on a few questions. Why do some people never give up even in the face of tremendous resistance and difficulty, while others give up in the slightest whiff of trouble? What is the true nature of happiness? What does that have to do with my work life and my professional life? What is courage? Is it something that people are born with? You either have it or you don't. Or is courage something that I can learn and build even if I have been non-courageous all my life? And then what is success? What does success mean to me? What does it mean to you? How can I feel successful? So those are the questions we will try to sort of tackle in the next less than an hour or so. And by the way, if we are able to do justice to these questions, we may be able to understand what leadership is. And spoiler alert, it might not be what you always thought it to be. So that's our time together today. Without further ado, let's get going. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a story. What I mean by show you a story is that a story is going to start appearing on your screen in a minute. Watch the story, and then at the end of that, I will ask you a few questions, okay? So it's the story about Josh, the graduate. Here goes. You've got to know Josh a little bit. Here's what I'd like you to do. Think about for a minute, what is going on? Why? Why is Josh in the place that he is right now? Somebody who's used to winning, somebody who's done so well through school and college, right at the top. Why is he in such a difficult place in his personal and professional life? Why is he feeling so lonely and so defeated at this time? Think about that for a minute, and as soon as you have some ideas, let me hear, or rather see your responses on the chat, please. Go ahead. When you're ready, type your answers in the chat, and let's see what the consensus here is. Class through school and college, doing very well in extracurricular activities, as well as on the sports field. This guy was a hero. What happened to him? He's being tested, needs to pray and self-reflect, that's for sure. Lack of purpose. Aha. Okay, very good. One would have argued that, he was somebody who was really focused in life, but suddenly he is certainly showing lack of purpose. He's trying to live up to other people's expectations. Maybe the burden of expectations from his parents is too much. Benchmarking success or failure on external locus and control, yes. Hasn't discovered his passion. Very good. Doesn't know how to reach out for support. Does he even know that he needs support? I love this one. He got used to college accomplishment. Arnav, that's absolutely right. I mean, he's used to winning. He's never fallen. And now that he has fallen, he doesn't know how to get up again. Is he giving up easily? Well, the question is, yes, he certainly is. But why wasn't he giving up through school or college? He never gave up. It's not easy to be the topper that he was. Not able to understand his inner voice. Does he even have one? Does not know what will give him real happiness. Love that. Has he even understood or asked himself what his inner voice is? What does happiness or success even look like for him? I'm not so sure. And yes, perhaps he lacks focus and direction. Through school and college, his parents were right on top of him saying, this is what you need to do. He knew exactly what the direction was, and now he's a little lost. University does not prepare you for the real world. My God, we could spend an hour talking just about that, Rosabelle. It is amazing, isn't it? Yes, the school of hard knocks, etc., etc. The only thing that I would say is that, he went to Stanford, and Stanford is not a place where you can just get by through academics. You have to work collaboratively. You have to show leadership. You have to show emotional intelligence and all that. So why is he so miserably failing at this point? Life flows. Yeah. And so the question then becomes, is it that we are helpless and we let everything flow, or can we control our destiny to some extent? Let's find out. Let's find out. Very good. I think all of you are heading in the right direction in terms of your responses. Most of them are in the right direction. I want to package these responses and give you a little framework to think about what I call emotional development. So there are 3 stages of emotional development, okay? And it's a slightly different version of, it's not, don't confuse this with emotional intelligence. I'm talking about emotional development, how we grow emotionally, okay? Emotional intelligence is a very cognitive thing, which we shall come to later. So the first stage, as we are little children and infants, when we are born as babies, all of us are dependent emotionally and even physically. Our happiness and well-being at this stage is dependent on others, our parents, our family, how they treat us, etc. So exactly how the world treats us is how we feel. And as very little infants, we are dependent on society and our family for everything, not just emotionally, but also physically, right? So that's the dependent stage, and you'll be surprised that I know some 80-year-olds and 50-year-olds who are still in the dependent stage. For them, happiness and sense of well-being is only directly related to what they receive and what they get from the world. And my argument here today is going to be that Josh is stuck in that dependence stage where it's all about how much he can get from the world, right? Now, many people manage to get to the next part, which is the green box in the pyramid, which is interdependence. Here you realize that happiness and well-being is intertwined with that of others. It's not just what I can get from the world, but to get from the world, I have to give to the world. And happiness comes equally from giving, if not more from giving, than in just receiving. And we will dive into these in a lot more detail, because if you can understand this deeply, you will unlock the keys to happiness. And not only can this be an hour of happiness together, but it can lead to a lifetime of happiness. And very few people make it all the way to the top of the pyramid, where happiness and well-being is now intrinsic, meaning I decide whether I'm happy, unhappy, feeling successful, unsuccessful, or not. The world or you have no bearing on how I feel. My sense of well-being and happiness comes from within me, no matter how hard life is and no matter how difficult the people around me are. And the goal should be to get to that independent state of emotional development, which I said very few people get to. But those who do get to it We've spent a lot of time with such people and learned from them, and I'm going to package that secret for you today in the next less than an hour or so time that we have left. Okay, so that's the first part of what we're going to do. Go up this pyramid. Let's look at these in a bit more detail now. Okay, dependence. So here's what dependence looks like. As I mentioned, it's all about receiving. So as a little kid, I need parents or other adults to help me get through basic day-to-day actions. Then I start going to school. I need teachers to make me knowledgeable and smart. And then I start postponing my happiness as I grow up. Oh, once I'm financially comfortable, I'll be happy. Once I have a great job, I'll be happy. If my bosses appreciate me, I'll be happy. Once I have a senior position, I'll be happy. When I'm famous, I'll be happy. And once somebody loves me unconditionally, I'll be happy. And it goes on and on and on. We first keep expecting from the world, and then we keep postponing our happiness. And in this default receiving mode, our happiness always depends on external factors such as wealth, power, or someone else's affection. Yeah, makes sense? That's what dependence look like. I'm sure you can visualize some people in your life that you know, in your personal or professional life, that are stuck in this dependence mode, even though they may be progressing with age. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you in a little while to think about where you think you are, but before that, let me tell you a little story. I was teaching this seminar. We do a one-day version of this program, which I'll tell you more about later. But I was teaching this one-day program on this very topic in the United States at a Fortune 50 company, where very, very senior people, this would be C-1s of this huge global conglomerate, were attending. There was about 80 people in the room. And as I was going through this particular material on explaining and unpacking dependence, there was a 6.5 foot tall gentleman by the name of John who was sitting towards the end of the room. And I noticed that he had tears rolling down his eyes. And so as I started talking about this and asked people, what do they think? I said, John, hey, I'm sorry. Did I say something that triggered a reaction in you? Are you all right? Is it okay? And he got up, he was wiping his eyes, and he says, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm embarrassing myself. Give me a minute, I'll be back. And he started walking out the door, probably wanted to go and regain his composure, wash his face or whatever. And as he was about to leave the door, I said, John, stop. You have two choices. Go out, freshen up, come back, pretend that this never happened, or turn around, come to the front of the room and tell the whole group what just happened. What triggered that strong emotional reaction in you? Your choice. Go out or come in front. He stood there for a few seconds and then decided that he was going to come to the front of the room. By the way, a lot of his direct reports were in the room. He was literally reporting to the CEO. He was running the largest region for this country. A very, very senior guy. His name was in the media every day. He could be CEO of a equal size or smaller company any day. Very well-known, very respected leader and a very senior guy, and very, very successful, of course. So he comes into the room and says, I just realized that I am stuck in dependence. My problem is that last bullet point on your slide, Rajeev, which says, and so on. So I said, explain. What are you trying to say? He says, look, half the world would give an arm and a leg to be in my role. I have the best job in the world. I could be CEO of N number of companies. I'm in line to be one of the candidates for succeeding the current CEO. Even if I did become a CEO, my current job is one of the best jobs in the world. I have a great family, a beautiful wife, and 2 kids. We have 2 vacations a year. There's nothing that we desire that we don't have. And yet, my life can be summed up on that last bullet point, and so on. I'm still going on and on, talking about the one or focusing on the 1 or 2 things that I wish I also had, forgetting the 98 things that I already have in life. And that's been my realization. You know what? There was stunned silence in the room for about 30 seconds. And then everybody stood up and gave him a standing ovation, an applause that didn't end for several minutes. They kept clapping for him. Anybody guess why did he get such a rousing applause when he shared this story in front of the room? Who has a thought? Why did people get up and give him a standing ovation after he spoke for literally a minute or so admitting what was going on for him? Why did people feel the need to get up and clap for him uncontrollably? Anybody? Let me see a couple of responses here. What do you think happened? Why did people feel the need to give him such a rousing applause? Yes, Amit, exactly right. Because of his courage to speak up in front of many people, and they could, that's absolutely right, Claire, they could relate. This could be me. And by the way, yes, showing vulnerability, because he admitted right there that that was going on, and that is the step. He accepted reality. And without accepting reality, there can be no resilience. From here, he only has upwards to go. But up until this time, he was caught in the trap of dependence, and he did not even know it. Right? Yes, it was his courage and ability to embrace Sumati, but the fact is he didn't know that he was stuck in this place. So something like this experience was so powerful for him that he realized, otherwise he probably thought there was nothing wrong. And this is going to be a beginning for him. But I kept in touch with him after that, and he is a totally different person now. He is now the CEO of another big company, by the way. But the way he leads, the way he lives his life is so different. Wonderful, isn't it? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story. A lot of people have told me that they could be Josh, or they have been Josh. We'll be coming back to our Josh story. So anyway, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to now spend 30 seconds reflecting and asking yourself the question on a 1 to 10 scale, where might I be if 1 is totally reactive and dependent, as we have described dependence, and 10 proactive and independent. So I know I haven't described interdependence and independence yet, but just on the 1 to 10 scale, where 1 is very reactive and very dependent, and 10 is independent, where might I be? I don't need you to give me your answer on the chat, but I just want you to think about it and have that number in your mind. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to quietly think about this. There's no need to write your response on the chat because this is private data, but I want you to really think about it quietly for 30 seconds. Well, I hope you were brutally honest with yourself when you gave yourself that number. And I hope you will later think about, what does that mean for me? And then at the end of this, this webinar, if you want to change that number, feel free to do so, and think about what this means for me. For now, that's where I want to leave it. So we move on. Now we want to move from this dependent stage to interdependence and independence. How do we move up there? Before we move on, I want to ask you a question. Now, the point is, we want to move from dependence to interdependence and eventually to independence in terms of our emotional development. Edward, my God, you read my mind, because I was just about to ask a question, and that is, why and how did Nelson Mandela survive 27 years in prison without losing hope, happiness, and strength? And later, Edward, I want to have a chat with you as to how do you read somebody's mind so clearly, and I want to learn that skill from you, but that's another time. But for those of you who might not know, Nelson Mandela was fighting against apartheid, and he was imprisoned when he was a young man, stayed in prison for 27 years, but did not lose hope, happiness, and strength, and eventually came out and became the first Black president of South Africa. And what he wanted to always create, which was a rainbow nation. So how can anybody like him survive this long without losing hope, happiness, and strength? 27 years of rigorous imprisonment is enough to break anybody. Thoughts? What happened? How? What was his secret? Let me hear a couple of responses. Synchronicity of thoughts. What does that mean, Edward? You want to share with the group a little bit more? That in case of Mandela, what does that mean? How was he so successful despite 27 years of rigorous imprisonment in remaining hopeful, happy, and strong? And anybody else? What was Mandela's secret? Tenacity. But what was the reason for that tenacity? Where was that tenacity coming from? Anybody else? That's right. He probably had a sense of purpose and a picture in his mind, and every time he wanted to give up, he reminded himself of that picture. He closed his eyes and envisioned that purpose. Conviction was coming from that purpose. Yes, I see that, Edward. Core belief in what he wanted to create. Very strong mindset and a faith in his thoughts. Very right. So yes, you're all absolutely correct. So let's talk about now, how do you go from dependence to interdependence and independence? Two things need to happen. In the case of Mandela, he uncovered what is called his leadership energy. And I need you to remember the words leadership energy. And he did that by moving from receiving to giving. I will explain in a minute. And then next, what he did is he chose to be happy. He realized that happiness is a choice. So the first step took him to interdependence, and the second step took him to independence. Lots of words here, so let's make them real. What do we mean? Let's look at leadership energy first. Leadership energy is that force within him that prevented him from giving up even through 27 years of hardship. That's how you imagine leadership energy. It is some inner force that prevents you from giving up no matter how hard life gets, no matter how much resistance you get. Because leadership at the end of the day is about overcoming such resistance, isn't it? So let's look at it. The force within. What is that force within? What is this made up of? This long-lasting leadership energy, which in the case of Mandela was 27 years. What is it made up of? It is made up of two sources, two things that all of us have within us, but very few of us actually get in touch with that inner self to uncover it. So I'm going to give you very quickly what this leadership energy is made up of, and this is probably the part that you want to pay the most attention to today. The first is a set of personal values that you so deeply believe in that you will never compromise them no matter what happens. Yeah? And a lot of people say my values are hard work, grit, honesty, integrity, passion, blah, blah, blah. But when no one is looking, they're easily compromised. No. In this case, you want that kind of leadership energy. The values that you believe in, the 4 or 5 or 6 values, have to be so strong. Your belief has to be so honest in them that you never give up, even if it means harm to you and your loved ones. Okay, that, yes, Viktor Frankl is absolutely the right example here, Sumati. So, when Mandela comes out of prison and becomes president of South Africa, what do the majority black population want from him as their first president? And if you're thinking revenge, an eye for an eye, justice, and punishing the white guys, you would be absolutely right. That's what the majority black population wanted from their first black president. But what did Mandela offer instead? Reconciliation, forgiveness. He had the courage to go against the very people that voted him to power because he believed so strongly in his values of reconciliation and forgiveness. That is the kind of deep belief you need to have if you want to uncover that deep, long-lasting leadership energy. Now, he waited 27 years to meet the two people he loved the most in his life, his wife and his daughter. What did the wife and daughter say when he said, I was going to forgive the white guy? They said, are you out of your mind? Have you sold your soul to the devil? You traitor. Is this what we made you president? They accused him of being a traitor. They accused him of being a coward, etc., a power-hungry coward, etc. And he still did not give up on his values of forgiveness and reconciliation. That's how strongly he believed. His wife and daughter left him, but he still wouldn't compromise his values. He consoled himself by saying, my family is not 2 people. My family is 44 million people, all the countrymen and women of my country. My friends, you want to have that kind of leadership energy? It's all inside you, but your first step is to be brutally honest with yourself. What are my values, which I will never compromise no matter what happens? Very few people have that kind of honest clarity of values. And therefore, very few people have the kind of leadership energy that I'm talking about. But all of us are capable of it. Okay? If you do manage to uncover that kind of truths about yourself, that these are the values that are important to me, now you start to live your life awake. You will be amongst the minority of people who will start living your life awake. Okay? And that's when you will start to see and feel your energy. So what happens to human energy is energy churns inside you at the intersection of your values and whatever is happening to you in a moment. So let's say you believe in justice and you see gross injustice happening outside, you're going to feel negative energy, anger, or sadness. Let's say you believe in grit and hard work and you see a child working really hard towards something, you're going to be feeling joy and excitement and other forms of positive energy, because there's either a match or a mismatch between the situation at hand and your values. A mismatch will produce negative energy in terms of sadness, anger, etc. A match will produce positive energy in terms of excitement, happiness, and wonder. Yes, so that's when you start to see your energy. And if you don't know your values, you cannot understand your energy. If you cannot understand your energy, you cannot harness it. And that's the state, the default state in which most people live their entire life. So now you have your deep and honest clarity about your values, and you've started to feel your energy. You've got to look for all the things that you have energy for and find the one thing that you have the most energy for and make that the purpose of your life. And that is the second and final part of leadership energy. Here's the thing about purpose. If the purpose is bigger than yourself, and if it is truly based on your values, you will lose fear. If you lose fear, you don't give up. If you don't give up, you can never fail. As simple as that, friends. Let me repeat that. If the purpose is truly based on your values, and if it is bigger than yourself, you lose fear. If you lose fear, you will not give up. If you don't give up, you will never fail. My friends, what you are seeing on your screens is the inner engineering work of leadership. Not only is this inner engineering work of leadership, it is the inner engineering work of courage. Like I said, if you develop a purpose bigger than yourself, that's when you lose fear, and courage is the absence of fear. Not only is this the anatomy of leadership and courage, this is also the anatomy of success. Because it's not that you will achieve your purpose and then be successful. People who have found this journey, they find success in the journey itself. The fact that I'm going on a journey of pursuing a worthy purpose already makes me feel successful. And finally, this is also the anatomy of happiness. Happiness doesn't come from accumulating more power and more wealth and more affection. It comes from knowing that I'm going towards a direction that my life is going to be worth it. So there you have it, the inner engineering of life, leadership, courage, success, and happiness, my friends. But we're not done yet. Let's keep going. We're already warming up. So that's the framework. Clarity and honesty of values and a values-based purpose gives you leadership energy. And with that, we can actually derive a definition of leadership. To most people, leadership is telling people what to do. Leadership is motivating, inspiring, coaching, guiding, directing other people towards a common purpose, etc., etc. When you ask people, imagine a leader, they think of a tall, white, usually white male named John on the top of a building. Yes, I'm not joking. The most popular CEO name in the West is John. I've worked for 2 of them. Somebody actually did that research. But anyway, that's the picture that comes to mind. Those are all outdated definitions of leadership. With this discussion that we've just had, my friends, let me offer you a different definition of leadership. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is not a position. You don't become a leader when you win an election or you get promoted. Leadership, you become a leader when you close your eyes and imagine vividly the better future you want to create for yourself and for people around you. So leadership is the art of harnessing human energy towards the creation of a better future. In fact, this could, if we could replace the word leadership in this definition, this could also be the definition of life itself. Life is the art of harnessing human energy towards the creation of a better future. Okay, so what have we talked about so far? Remember, I asked you those two questions: that are the best leaders selfless servant leaders, and are the best employees selfless also? Those were trick questions. Being self-centered or other-centric are not mutually exclusive. Self-ambition is a powerful driving force. One need not sacrifice it, right? Absolutely. The word selfish is not a negative word. And without self-ambition, there is no drive. But, and there's a big but, happiness, courage, and leadership success lie more in giving than in receiving. So the key question is, what are you ambitious about giving? What is your fearless purpose? And if you are going to become rich, famous, and powerful by making the world a better place, why not? That is the secret of life, leadership, and happiness. You give more, you get more. And then nobody grudges your power and your billions. However, to develop that fearless purpose that we've been talking about, you will need emotional integrity, not emotional intelligence. I've thrown a lot of things at you in the last 10 minutes, my friends, I know. And then I'm topping it up with a crazy question like, you need emotional integrity and not emotional intelligence. So I'm going to give you a breather to digest everything that I've said. I want you to think about this question for a second. What is emotional integrity and how is it different from emotional intelligence? Because I'm saying if you want to get that long-lasting leadership energy, you're going to first start with emotional integrity. What is this emotional integrity? How is it different from emotional intelligence? Let me hear some thoughts on the chat. As soon as you're ready, give me some thoughts. What do you think is emotional integrity and how is it different from emotional intelligence? Because I can tell you, unless we have emotional integrity, we cannot move forward in our journey of discovering leadership energy. Who wants to take a guess? I'm sure you've heard the term emotional intelligence, but probably haven't heard the term emotional integrity unless you're Googling me right now. Now, that's absolutely on the right track. Yes, being true to yourself. Let me give you the official definition. Emotional integrity is looking in the mirror and admitting, at least to yourself, what you really want for yourself, even if it means your goals and your desires are totally self-centric. Yeah? Let me repeat that. Emotional integrity is admitting to oneself what one truly wants out of life without worrying about social acceptance. Meaning, even if I want everything that is totally focused on me, me, and myself, the first step is to look in the mirror and admit to myself at least. Then you might decide that, I don't want this. I will calibrate from there. But that pure honesty, self-honesty is what is needed. And that is the starting point. Yes, very good. I'm seeing some very good responses. Emotional integrity starts from within, while emotional intelligence is more about, and yes, Claire, also emotional intelligence is on the surface skill. I can be emotionally intelligent and yet be completely phony, right? It's about knowing my emotions and regulating them intelligently. It's about knowing other people's emotion and reacting to those intelligently. That's an on-the-surface skill. Emotional integrity is admitting to myself what I really want, even though I know that if I voice those words, society may not like it. And then you decide from there, hey, do I really want that? And how do I manage? And then the way the beauty would be if you can find a way to get what you want for yourself by giving to the world such a way that the world also becomes a better place. That's the magic of life, leadership, and happiness. Okay, so anyway, that's a little primer on leadership. on emotional integrity. Let's move on. So that's the piece where you get to interdependence, because now you've developed a life purpose where you're giving the world something, and in return, you're getting from the world something. Do you give more to get more? That stage of doing that inner engineering from values to purpose has gotten you to interdependence. How do you now go from interdependence to independence, which is I decide how I feel, I'm not dependent on how the world treats me? We're going to have to add a few things on the value side and a few things on the purpose side. And let me give that to you quickly so that we remain within our time. So for truly independent happiness, you're going to have to learn 3 skills and practice the heck out of them. That is the road to independent happiness. Gratitude, acceptance, and forgiveness. GAF. My friends, if you can master these 3 things, you are going to be the master of your life, the captain of your world. It's as simple as that. But here's the problem. These 3 things are not the default wiring of the brain. In fact, the brain is wired exactly the opposite. Here is the natural wiring or the default wiring of the brain. Instead of gratitude, we look for regret. You know, the neuroscientists ask the question, what does the brain proactively look for, pain or pleasure? And the answer is pain, so that we can avoid it. But if only we focused on the pleasures in life that we already have, life would be so much more beautiful, isn't it? So the default wiring is not gratitude, it's regret. Acceptance is about accepting reality. What John did in the room I was about to name the city, but then I would tell you the company, but no, somewhere on the West Coast, in his auditorium, he accepted reality. The default of the brain is hope, blame, and denial, because hope, blame, and denial are easier strategies to cope with difficult situations. And forgiveness is the hardest of the 3. And again, the default is not to forgive. The default is revenge, anger, and the feeling of resentment. So we're going to have to rewire the brain to get rid of that default wiring and get to the green side, which is gratitude, acceptance, and forgiveness. And the good news is all of us are capable of rewiring the default wiring of the brain. And the only thing you need to do is practice. So let's look at that. We're going to do a little bit of practice now in the time that we have left. Of course, I can't go into too much detail, but I'll give you a small flavor. Okay, so let's look at gratitude first. I'd like you to do a quick exercise with me. I want you to, on a piece of paper or any device at this time, be absolutely quiet and for just about 60 seconds, list all the things that you are grateful for in life, all the things that you are happy and thankful that you have in your life, all the gifts that you have. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to do this, and your time starts now. Keep writing of all the things that you're grateful for. You run out of things to write, keep thinking, what else can I add? But stay in that moment of, I am so grateful that I have this, 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 and this in my life. Keep going until I call time. Silently continue to think about all the gifts you have in life. Try not to think about anything else at this point. Very good. I'd like you to now share with me at this particular moment when you've just finished writing your list of gifts in your life, how are you feeling right now? Describe how you're feeling just at this very moment, please. 1 or 2 responses. How are you feeling at this point? Yes, and so how are you feeling? Yes, but all these things that you're listing, what are you feeling right now? Grateful, that's right. Grateful, content, happy, isn't it? So why are you feeling awesome, thankful, grateful, feeling at peace and feeling happy and grateful at this time? Because you just fill the bucket of your brain with gratitude. Let me tell you something. The brain, human brain, is not designed for multitasking. It can only feel one emotion at a time. And right now, you filled the entire bucket of your brain with gratitude. So there is no place right now for pessimism, sorrow, or anger. You only feel peace and happiness, right? And that's the trick, my friends. Next time you are in a stressful situation, make that list in your mind, on your phone, on a piece of paper. I only asked you to spend 1 minute, spend 3 minutes on it if you don't mind. Keep thinking of all the things that you're grateful for. Fill that bucket with gratitude. There will be no place. If you think you are a multitasker, no, you're not. You may be a very good switcher of tasks, but neuroscience has now proven that multitasking is not possible. So fill that bucket with gratitude. And now that you're feeling like you're feeling right now, ask yourself about the problem that was giving you stress. What is the one more thing I can do about it? With the bucket of the brain full of gratitude, you will probably get one more idea as to what you can do about it. Yeah, simple thing you can do at any time you are in a stressful situation. So as you practice more and more gratitude, the default wiring of the brain with practice will change from regret to happiness. That's one secret of how to be independently happy. So that's a little bit about gratitude, okay? I could go on and on and on about gratitude, but we can move on, I think. The next is acceptance. Unless you accept reality, there can be no resilience, because only you can do something about your problems. You wish the world would change, but the world might not change. You'll have to change. It's right. You've heard it a million times. To change the world, you got to change yourself. Yes, it's true. Because hope, blame, and denial are not strategies. Oh, I hope my terrible boss goes away. Yeah, she's going to be transferred very soon. Oh, I have this problem because of you. Blaming somebody is a very powerful force because it takes it away from me to you, and I get temporary equilibrium in my brain, but it's not a strategy. And denial, oh, this is not happening to me. Imagine you are standing by the window on the 40th floor of a building and you have a football or a basketball in your hand and you throw that ball down from the window. Now visualize this ball falling down. There is only one condition in which this ball can bounce back up in the air. What is that condition? Yes, you thought it right. It has to hit the floor first before it bounces back. It cannot bounce back mid-air. That's the idea about acceptance. You accept reality and then take responsibility. Responsibility, the ability to respond, will only come if you take acceptance of reality first. So no matter how bad it is, what is the, in full ugliness, what is the reality? Be accepted. Then ask, what's the one more thing I can do about it? Now you're in control. So that's the second secret of independent happiness. Again, with practice, you can change the default wiring of the brain from hope, blame, and denial to next time you find yourself hoping, blaming, or denial, or denying something, check yourself. I'm in that trap again. Let me accept reality. Let me take responsibility because I can do something about it. And finally, the hardest part, which is forgiveness. If you can master this, my friends, you will always be happy, no matter how hard life is. Because harboring anger and sorrow is punishing yourself for someone else's bad behavior. So the people that have hurt you, the people that have given you grief, why are you letting them live in your brain rent-free? Because that's what they want. Okay? Stop it. Harboring anger and sorrow is punishing yourself for somebody else's bad behavior. Well, stop punishing yourself. You rise above that. I am strong enough to forgive you. I choose to free myself. I will not let you live rent-free in my brain anymore. The burden is now on you. I am not the giver of justice. And the moment you free yourself of this, you will feel liberated. You will feel empowered because you are back in control of your life. But it's not easy, my friends. Practice, practice, practice. Let me quickly show you what it looks like. In terms of, you'll develop your own process of forgiving, but here are some basic ones. Start with some questions. What could have possibly provoked them to do what they did to me? Think from their point of view. Could it have been something I did that I shouldn't have? Could it be something that I didn't do that I should have done? Is it possible that I may have done the same thing to somebody else that they did to me if I was in that situation or the opportunity presented myself? And would I forgive myself in that situation? And finally ask yourself, if I do somehow manage to forgive this person, what would be the consequences to me and to people around me? Just imagine for a moment that you were successful in forgiving, however hard it is right now, because the person, the closest people more closer to you, when they hurt you, the more difficult it is to forgive them. But imagine for a minute, what if I did succeed? What would I do? And slowly you start practicing. You will forgive somebody. 2 days later, the pain and the anger will come back and you will again be in the default mode. Again, remind yourself, no, I must forgive. 2 days later, the same thing will happen and it will take months. But eventually you will reach a stage where you can wish them well. Now your forgiveness is working. Okay? Hate and sorrow are strong forces. They keep you going, but they eventually kill you. Forgiveness is powerful. It makes you come alive again. I'm not telling you anything you didn't know, my friends. This is a reminder. And you know that your forgiveness has begun when, upon remembering those who hurt you, you can wish them well. And you will get there. It's all a matter of practice. If you ever join me or one of my colleagues in the one-day workshop of this program, we will walk through many, many examples of stories, and we will have you share yours about how this process of forgiveness works. And even at the end of the 1 day, you will get so much practice that you will walk away with something positive. Today, I can only in this hour give you some samples. But anyway, that's the story of GAF: practice, practice, practice. In the time we have left, very quickly, 2 more ideas on the purpose side. And one is change the vocabulary in your brain from sacrifices to choices. Some of the best leaders and the most powerful people I've talked to say, I made no sacrifices in my life. I only made choices. I knew what was important for me and my mission, and I chose that. Some people say, oh, I sacrificed family time for my career because my career was very important, blah, blah, blah. And some people do the opposite. Oh, I sacrificed my career for my family because my family was more important. No, 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 no. Change that syntax from sacrifice to choice, because now you will be in control. As long as you use the syntax of sacrifice, there will be some grief left in the heart. And unhappy people don't make great leaders. They don't make great spouses. They don't make great parents. You change that from sacrifice to choice. You're in control. Now you're happy with whatever it is. You're ready to face the world and your actions and your consequences much more strongly. More about that another time when we meet. And finally, you chase life worth, not net worth. This goes back to the earlier piece on values and purpose. Chasing life worth is chasing a worthy purpose. So the idea of life worth is that you focus on a purpose. And I can guarantee you, friends, that if you focus on chasing life worth rather than net worth, your net worth needs will take care of themselves automatically. One of 2 things will happen. Either you will find something that you're giving to the world through your purpose, that you're so good at giving it that you're making a lot of money, etc., doing it. So win-win. Or you are so happy giving to the world what you're giving that you don't measure your happiness in terms of money and wealth anymore, because the joy that you're getting is already so much. You don't have needs for money and wealth as much as somebody who has no clarity. So those are the 2 ideas on the purpose side. So if you can master these 5 ideas, my friends, nobody can make you unhappy. Okay, we're almost there. So to bring it all together, I'd like to now have you watch a quick video. It is the story of Easy Eddie, a very important lawyer in the United States in the 1920s, working for the mafia. Here goes.
Now, during the Prohibition in the 1920s, Capone quickly became public enemy #1.
Because the mafia was killing people, and he was getting them off.
He ordered the murders of scores of people. The only thing these guys would do would be to respond with violence.
Easy Eddie. He was such a good lawyer that no matter what charges they had on Al Capone or his people, they couldn't put any of them in jail. He was so valuable that the mafia gave him enormous amounts of money, the best of cars, the best of everything. And he had a son. But Easy Eddie was thinking, I've given my son everything. Everything money could buy. But there's one thing I haven't given my son. An example of a father that he could be proud of. And Easy Eddie came to the conclusion, the only way I could give my son a father with a legacy of a good name is I have to help the government put the mafia in prison. He testified. And many of the biggest people in the mafia were put in prison. He knew full well that he would be killed for doing this. And one day he was riding in his car and another car came by and several people with machine guns filled his body with bullets and he laid on the street dead. He paid a very high price to give his son a father who he could be proud of. There was a man in the United States Air Force during World War II. He took off from his ship to go fight against the Japanese. He saw about 9 Japanese bombers coming toward the USS Lexington to sink the boat, and there were thousands of people on the boat. He was alone. And he decided, I have to stop them. So he single-handedly charged at these 9 airplanes and was shooting and shooting and shooting. And he actually had 2 of them fall into the ocean. And then he ran out of bullets. And they were shooting at him and attacking him. And he was so fearless that he was flying at these different planes that were shooting at him, and he was knocking off their wings. And finally, after 5 of the 9 sank, the other 4 thought, this man is completely crazy, let's get out of here. And they all flew away. He was the first person in the U.S. Air Force in World War II to get the U.S. Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest award there is. His name was Butch O'Hare. And the airport in Chicago, O'Hare Airport, is named after him. He's considered one of the greatest heroes of American history because he was willing to sacrifice his own life for the higher cause of others. What makes this story so interesting is Butch O'Hare was the son of Easy Eddie. What are we giving our children? I've seen people work so hard for money, give it to their children, and then their children fight as enemies to see who gets it. Is that the legacy? Is that fulfilling life? Is that what we want to leave to the world? Our values, our character, the grace and the compassion of the love that flows through us is the greatest contribution we could make to our own life, to our families, and to the world. And when we have those values, and we work and we build that foundation, then we could have a wonderful, fulfilling, meaningful life beyond birth, beyond death. And we could leave that as a legacy for the world.
So I hope you found that story as inspiring as I find it, and I hope that brought together everything that we've talked about in the last hour. So there you have it, my friends. Stage 1 is to go from dependence to interdependence, the inner engineering work, honest clarity of values, and a values-based purpose. And then if you want to get to independence, you need to master GAF and the idea of choices over sacrifices and life worth over net worth. Yeah, so that's all I have to share today. If you're at all interested in the longer version where we do a lot of work and we talk face to face, join us on this workshop. And I think the next one, I believe, is on 14th of August in Singapore, but we do them all over the place. So hopefully we'll see you for the longer version at some point. And with that, I'll leave you with two final questions. Mind the word for. Can I make myself strong enough to forgive? If you want to get a 4-minute video encapsulating everything that we've talked about today, scan the first QR code. If you want a 3-page article on this, scan the other QR code. And that's all the information that I've shared today. With that, I'd like to request you to keep in touch on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or anything that you like. I hope this was of some use to you. My friends, thank you so much for joining us. And stay tuned for more from Stewardship Asia Center. Thank you very much.